All right, guys, so this is going to be the last lecture for the endocrine units. We're going to talk a little bit about the pineal gland, thymus gland, the gonads, and then there's a few other organs that also have some endocrine qualities to them at certain periods of time. So let's go and start with the pineal gland first. So it is actually at the base of the brain. If you look at the diagram over here, here's brainstem, and then here's the medulla. The pineal gland sits pretty much right above the medulla in relationship to it in the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland and hypothalamus are right here in this area. Pineal gland is kind of in this area back here. So the pineal gland is going to be posterior to where the pituitary is actually at. It plays a huge role in our neural regulation, specifically our sleep-wake cycle. So it secretes a hormone called melatonin. And you've probably heard that there are people that take melatonin as a supplement to help regulate their kind of sleep. It hugely does that for us. If you spend a lot of time in an environment like most of us probably are spending in right now in a dark enclosed space, I'm sitting in a classroom. We've got fluorescent lights above, but I don't have any natural light. So my sleep wake cycle really has been kind of affected because of this whole thing, because I don't get any natural sunlight, so my body really doesn't know when it's light and when it's dark. And then on top of that, we just had the time change, so that makes it even worse. All right, but pineal gland, main thing here is our melatonin, and it helps regulate this sleep-wake cycle for us. Right. All right, next one is our thymus. This is a endocrine organ that actually sits posterior to the sternum. It is mostly effective during infants and children. So as we age, it actually gets smaller. The thymus gland produces this hormone called thymosin. And thymosin's main purpose is to help our white blood cells mature. It's hugely important in developing our immune system, which is why it's most effective during infants and children, because that's when most of our immune system is kind of formed. All right, we still form some of our immune system as we age, but not near as much as we do as in the first couple years of life. Right. Next one we have here is estrogen. This one is being produced by the ovaries specifically. Remember, we just talked a little bit ago about the adrenal glands do produce some estrogen, but for females, since their main reproductive organ is the ovaries, that's where most of this estrogen is being produced. So a couple of things it does for them is it helps them develop secondary female sex characteristics. So development of breast tissue, increase in kind of subcutaneous fat, okay? Widening of hips, thinning of some of the bones of both the skull as well as the hips as well. And the other thing is it helps prepare the uterus to receive a fertilized egg. So estrogen will actually kind of spike and then drop back off at different times during the month. So it's also one of the ones that helps stimulate kind of the menstrual cycle. Progesterone is another one. So progesterone helps bring about the menstrual cycle. So it really helps bring that kind of as well. So as you can see in the graph here, we also have a spike in progesterone. It's one of the hormones that helps maintain pregnancy. So most often in a lot of birth controls, progesterone is the hormone that they're actually using to synthesize for that. At the end of pregnancy, it also helps prepare for milk production. All right. And then it's also produced not only by the ovaries, but produced by the corpus luteum. So the portion of the ovary where the egg is actually ruptured from is what produces that for us. Okay, endocrine function of the placenta. So the placenta itself, not only being just trying to help the fetus grow, but it also does help maintain normal pregnancy. So it produces a hormone called human gonadotrophic hormone, or HCG. This is actually the one that when they do a pregnancy test that they're actually looking for, or one of the ones they're looking for, and it also helps produce some estrogen as well as progesterone. At the later stages of pregnancy, it produces another hormone called relaxin. And what it does is it actually helps the ligaments in the pelvis as well as the pubic symphysis start to kind of soften. And a lot of times women in the later stages of pregnancy will have issues because they'll have problems with dislocated hips, problems with the pubic symphysis itself, or they can also have problems with what we call as their SI joint. It's a joint in the back of the pelvis between the spine and the pelvis, because that relaxin really kind of softens up those ligaments, essentially getting the woman ready for childbirth. But in the wrong amounts, it can cause other issues during pregnancy. Okay. For men, then, for testes, we really have these androgens. All right. So androgens are male sex hormones. They're produced by the interstitial cells of the testes themselves. The main androgen is testosterone. Okay. Similar to estrogen in women, testosterone produces all of those secondary male sex characteristics that we think of for males. So this is deepening of voice, facial hair, production of both muscle and bone tissue. All right. And then that hormone is specifically required for the production of sperm cells. So if we have a decrease in testosterone or no testosterone being produced, men will actually not produce sperm cells, or at least viable sperm cells. Okay. We have other couple organs that actually do produce some hormones, and we've talked a little bit about a couple of them as we've gone through this. So the kidneys specifically produce a hormone called renin. That's the one that stimulates the production of aldosterone to help reabsorb both sodium and water in the kidneys. All right, the placenta we just talked about, that's the HCG, the estrogen and progesterone. There are some hormones produced by the small intestine. There are some hormones that are also produced by parts of the stomach, heart, and there's lots of other ones that are kind of scattered throughout the body that help do this as well. Okay. Uh, this is the last slide here a little bit, some developmental aspects of the endocrine system. So for the most part, unless there's some sort of an issue with the endocrine organ usually operates pretty smoothly until we reach old age. One of the things that really kind of brings on this, or kind of is more highlighted, is menopause. So menopause is brought on by the lack of efficiency of the ovaries. So they stop sort of producing some of those hormones, so the estrogen and progesterone, which causes that problem later in life. There are also some issues that can be associated with the reduction in estrogen as well. Growth hormone, obviously production declines as we age. We don't tend to need as much of that as we get older, which is why sometimes adults shrink as we get older, because some of that isn't being replaced. And then lots of other endocrine organs tend to decrease, again, without their output with age. Okay. All right. So we're going to try to finish things up throughout this week, guys. If you need something, let me know. If you're having a hard time with something, try to remember it. I know there's lots of hormones here. Flashcards might not be a bad idea. Maybe try to turn that hormone chart that we've given you guys into some flashcards to kind of help go through those. The Quizlets that I've made are also helpful. Just make sure you spend some time with some of this information, okay?